Hello and welcome to another Simple Invest video. So in this video, I'll be talking about what are the new or possible interesting investments to begin for the new year 2020. Because it's a new year, it's a new decade, and it's also a new beginning for investing. So most people will be thinking of what could be the profitable investment for this new year or even for the whole decade. Frankly, I don't know. But we can get some ideas based on what are the trending news for companies or commodities, and based on what's happening on certain price charts that are going on since the beginning of this year. And since this video is catered for beginners, I think it's very important for me to put this disclaimer up front, which is I'm a strong believer that you should invest and put money in what you are familiar with. Because your skill set and how familiar you are with that particular asset or the investment, it's a big deal because it determines the amount of trust you have in that investment. You can't invest in something just because a person like me on YouTube says that that's good or that's bad. So you can't put the money just based on some random person's comment. Even if that person is an expert, it's not advisable to put your money on it because, well, you don't know that investment as well as that particular expert. But if you do, then you have done your own homework, you have your own background knowledge on it, and you trust your own sense that it's going to appreciate in value over time, then that's great. Then you can actually put in your money in it and hopefully it does well for you. But it's important that you trust your own knowledge and your own research in that particular investment before you put any money in it, be it 1 cent or $10 or $1 million, any amount. You have to be familiar with the asset class or with that particular company that you're investing before you put any money in it. Okay? So since that's out of the way, these are personally what I have personally noticed since the beginning of 2020. What are the asset classes or what are the companies that looks interesting to me? Some of them I've already invested in. I've already put money in them. Some I'm just monitoring and to see if they're going to do a breakout and do an upwards move for the rest of 2020. Alright. So first and foremost, we go into commodities or precious metals. One interesting thing is gold. Okay, let's see if I have my gold chart here. And gold is too many charts, can't find it. Gold is XAU, XPD. No, it's on this chart. Okay, found it. So this is gold against USD, XAU versus USD chart. It's on a Forex platform, but you can invest in either gold ETFs or gold Forex or CFD pair such as this. So this so we call it a CFD. Okay, so first and foremost, this is the daily time frame. Let me remove this so that you can see it. Alright, okay. So this is the MetaTrader 4 chart, and I'm using the daily time frame, which means one single candle here is equals to 1 day. So as you can see on the daily time frame chart, it's on uptrending. It's been uptrending since May of last year. And there's a slight dip in December of 2019 last year. And now it has gone somewhat of a breakout move and broken through this particular resistance at 1,557 against the USD. This is price of gold against price of USD. Okay. And if we switch to a weekly time frame, which means every single candle is now 1 week, you can see that it's on an uptrend as well. So the uptrend started on a weekly basis. The breakthrough started in June last year. So it went up. So from August is where it was the peak, and there was a slight dip. And from November to early December last year, there was a breakout. Of course, after this breakout of the 1,557, it came back down a bit. Like we see here on the daily time frame, it's stabilizing. It could be doing some consolidation for another upward breakout. We don't know, but it's something that it's interesting, and I think everybody should definitely be aware of that gold is having a good upward momentum. Okay, so that's gold. And second would be my favorite at the moment would be palladium. So if you're not aware, this is the palladium daily chart, and this is the palladium weekly chart. Anyway, this is a CFD for palladium against USD, and it's a crazy chart. It just goes up and up. Some background information on palladium. Palladium is a kind of metal that is used in cars, catalytic converters for petroleum cars. So a catalytic converter is something that converts your car's exhaust, the carbon emission and stuff like that, into more harmless gases. Hence, every car, every automobile that uses petroleum will need a catalytic converter. And this has made this metal be in higher and higher demand ever since, because more and more cars are being produced. And I believe there's a recent US and China trade deal that talks something about automobile production and there's some trade talks about upcoming automotive there's an uptrend in automobile production in Germany, I guess. So that may have sparked the recent increase in the demand. But if we look back, the price of palladium, this is on the weekly chart by the way, it has been on the uptrend since February 2016. That is 4 years ago, and the uptrend has never stopped. Just that recently, maybe due to the US-China trade deals and all the trade deals that's happening around the world, palladium has really spiked up in this recent few weeks. So much so that as of today that I'm recording, which is I'm in Singapore time, 17th of January, which is a Friday. There's a trading halt for palladium, and it's the price has been halted by probably some commodities exchange around the world. And I don't know whether it's going to go up or go down, but it's a strong trending metal that doesn't seem to... it's definitely interesting. There's something that you can take note of. So an alternative to palladium for catalytic converters would be platinum. So this is a chart for platinum. This is the next thing that I'm noticing, because if palladium gets too expensive, automakers and car companies around the world might consider using platinum instead, even though platinum is sort of like a precious metal. So this is the platinum's against USD's daily chart, which you can see it is going on the uptrend since 2019. Since June of 2019, June last year. We switch it to the weekly chart. You can see that, the price of platinum hit a peak in 2016 before it came down. The lowest point was around August last year. August 2018, 2 years ago. August 2 years ago. And it has been on the uptrend since June last year, June of 2019. So obviously there's a lot of fluctuation in the price, but it has been going on the uptrend. Right now, as of this week that I'm recording, it has hit these resistance levels. You can see that I've drawn a few resistance zones based on the prices, the peaks of platinum's price in 2018, 2017, February 2017, August, and 2018 January. So these were the peaks in price, and I put zones around them. So what I feel is that if platinum is able to break through this zone, it might be showing good upward momentum to go beyond it. But if it doesn't break through this zone, maybe it can go down. I'm not too sure. The thing about using platinum as a replacement for palladium is that the existing technology for manufacturing catalytic converters is based on palladium. So I don't think it'll be that easy or that cheap for companies to switch all of their production to platinum. They have to invest a lot in changing all their manufacturing processes and plants, which is probably a lot of money, in order to justify the switch to platinum. Anyway, right now, as of the current price is 1,021, which is, let's compare to the price of palladium again, 2295. So it's about slightly less than half, less than 50%, maybe about 45% of the price of palladium. So Yeah, I mean, they have to balance the cost, but right now, palladium is the metal to go to. Okay, so these are what I've noticed, the 3 uptrending commodities or precious metals that's on the uptrend right now from the beginning of 2020. Some of them since long ago, like palladium, but the uptrend is especially pronounced since the beginning of this year, which is gold, palladium, and platinum. Alright, and moving on to another one of my investment areas, which is stocks. So I myself, I'm quite interested in technology. I'm someone that builds my own computers, so I know a bit about the CPU companies, especially AMD and Intel. I watch on YouTube reviews and so on. Okay, so personally, I'm interested in AMD because this is a Bloomberg website, and we can take a look at AMD's stock prices here. Alright, all-time high, almost hitting $50 per stock. $50 per share. And if you look at the 5-year chart, it has been on a huge uprising move since 2016. Recently, as of if you are into tech and you have been reading tech reviews and so on, AMD has been destroying Intel based on their new processing for... They have this new 7nm process for their CPU chips. Maybe putting in layman terms, it means that CPU chips are more efficient and they can run faster. So their recent Ryzen processors and the Threadripper processors have been outperforming Intel by quite a fair bit since from 2019. I think from beginning of 2019 until now, recently at CES 2020, they have been outperforming almost all of Intel's processors, and Intel doesn't seem to have an answer because Intel's have yet to move on to the 7nm manufacturing process, which is a big deal. Hence, Intel doesn't seem to have an answer for AMD's desktop processors right now, and as you can see on the recent articles here, AMD is moving on to laptop chips because they recently announced their new AMD 4000 series processors, which are chips that are designed specifically for laptops. So Intel also used to have dominance on the laptop market, but it seems like AMD, with their superior performance in the desktop market, they're trying to bring that technology into laptop processors as well. So that's about AMD, which is doing well. As a disclaimer, personally, I am invested in AMD since a few months back, and as you can see, the stock is doing great. Okay, how about his competitor Intel? So you might think that Intel, it's getting beaten up by AMD, but in reality, the stock price and their fundamentals would beg to differ, which is something very surprising for me. Because Intel, I believe their business is more than just desktop computers and laptop computers. They are quite a diversified company. And if you look at their 1-year stock price, they actually hit the peak since the peak price of around $56 per share last year. Now it's actually at the all-time high, $59.66. Looking at the 5-year chart, yeah, Intel's stock price is at an all-time high. Later I'll talk about the bull run of the US stock market at the current moment, but if you look at the fundamentals for Intel, it's actually quite good. Every quarter, their revenue seems to be increasing, and yearly, their revenue is increasing. Profit margin is increasing as well. Balance sheet-wise, total assets has been increasing every quarter, and on a yearly basis, assets has been increasing. Debt has been going down. Debt to assets has been going down. So they are increasing their total assets while taking on less debt. So it's great. Cash flow, every quarter their operating cash flow has been increasing. Yearly wise, operating cash flow has been increasing consistently every year. Of course, we haven't seen the numbers in 2019 because, as I mentioned earlier, 2019 was the beginning of when AMD chips were really outperforming Intel. And when 2019's numbers come in, it might paint a totally different story because most of the vendors and the customers that are buying CPU chips seems to be gradually shifting over to AMD chips. However, if you look at the quarterly balance sheets and the revenue charts, every quarter 2019 has been going up. So likely at the end of the year, for the end year 2019 reports are probably going to be more than 2018 as again, which shows that Intel is still on the uptrend. So news-wise, Intel has recently tried to hint at the development of their own GPU, graphics processing unit, which means their own video cards. Intel has never done video cards, so they seem to be trying to dive into it. However, it's just a peak. They have like a sort of like prototype, but from many of the initial tech reviewers who went to CES 2020 to look at the prototype's performance, they weren't impressed. But they didn't have a hands-on actual unit to review for real, so we'll never know. But Intel doesn't have the history or the expertise to make video cards. It has mostly been done. So far, video cards has been made by AMD, as well as NVIDIA, which is the leader in video card manufacturing. All right. So those are the tech companies that I feel are on the uptrend. I forgot one important one. When you talk about tech company, you have to talk about this. Electric cars, anyone? Tesla. So Tesla is a big story of last month, December, as well as beginning a big story of January this year. So if you're not aware, Tesla is the electric car company that is started by Elon Musk, most famous entrepreneur in the world right now. I will argue for myself. And their stock has been going bonkers. Currently, it's at an all-time high, $513 per stock if you look at a 5-year chart. Yeah. At the previous peak, it was at... Well, let me maximize that 5-year chart. At the previous peak, it was in... what year was this? 2017 June, where it hit $383. So in context, currently it's at $513 per share. It is, 80% more than its previous high in 2017, which is crazy. It's like in 2018 and end of 2018 tried to hit that previous high when the stock price dipped. I forgot the exact reasons for it. I believe there were a lot of reports of Tesla car batteries like catching on fire, issues with the cars, issue with the delivery. That means people were doubting that Tesla could deliver enough vehicles to deliver enough vehicles for the number of orders they were getting, because Teslas were getting popular. People were buying more and more Teslas, but people were skeptical of the Tesla's plant's ability to manufacture them. So what happened towards the end of 2019 was that Tesla's China plants started running. But the caveat is that the China plants weren't exactly producing Tesla parts in China. Tesla was producing the car parts in US, shipping them over to China, and have the car parts being assembled into entire cars in China and being shipped from China. However, it is still a big deal because the output of Tesla has initially been boosted by a lot. And it's a lot of good news, and the investors just started buying Tesla stock like crazy. And another part of what I believe would be a big reason for this sudden huge uptrend in Tesla stock was that there were a lot of famous short sellers and a lot of big investment funds that actually wanted to hunt down Tesla because they were short selling Tesla stock. And if you're not familiar with short selling, it's that you were betting that the stock would dive. So you borrowed stock from someone else, probably the exchange, and you were selling that borrowed stock. So what happens when you short sell is that if the stock goes up crazy like this, and you shorted a ton of stock, you'll be losing a lot of money if you don't let go of the stock. That's what happened to these investors. You can actually Google for what happened to all these short selling funds, and there are reports that they lost millions and even billions of dollars so far. Okay, so that's about the short selling. So why this short selling would now cause Tesla stocks to spike is that when these short sellers were losing so much money, they had to let go of the stock. So when you let go of short selling stock, you had to buy back the stock. So imagine you owe the exchange millions and millions of stock, and suddenly you were being forced to buy millions and millions of Tesla stock from the market at any price in order to not go bankrupt. And that is the big belief of why I believe Tesla stock is going up so fast, because the short sellers were trying to cover their shorts. So as they covered, they kept buying and buying and buying Tesla stock, and they didn't have the luxury of time. Like they couldn't wait for another week to buy because they were already losing so much money. They had to fill it up immediately. They had lost, for example, the exchange actually gives you a credit limit, like how much tolerance they can, the Tesla's price can go up before you're being forced to buy. And the exchange were forcing these short sellers to cover their positions because Tesla stock price was going up so much. And it created a vicious cycle whereby more and more short sellers were forced to buy. So the buying trend continued and continued and continued, and it forced the price to spike up and spike up and spike up. So hence, I believe that is a big reason for this crazy Tesla stock price at the moment. Would I buy Tesla stock right now? Would be a big no, because personally, I'm not a big believer of buying into stocks at all-time high. I'm more of someone that waits for their price to drop. If the stock has good fundamentals like Tesla, I'll wait for the price to drop and then go in. And then whenever it goes up, it goes up. That's my personal strategy. I don't know about you. But if you look at the fundamentals for Tesla on a yearly basis, actually they've been doing great. Revenue has been increasing every year. Profit margins has been going up. Balance sheet wise, their total assets has been going up. And I believe a lot of the reason, most of the reason that the short sellers were trying to, they were looking down and trying to short Tesla stock was because of this debt to asset ratio hitting very high in 2018. Because in order for Tesla to grow, to like I mentioned, make their China plants and all that, they had to take on a lot of debt. Elon Musk had to take on a lot of debt. And they were afraid that Tesla wouldn't be able to pay back this debt and go bankrupt. So that's why they were shorting Tesla stock. However, the reverse happened, and so now we have Tesla at the all-time high, over $500 per share. I would not buy into Tesla stock now, but I mean, I may be wrong. It might go up more. I do not know. So that's up to you to decide. But if you're not familiar, don't dive into it. That's what I mentioned. Okay, so that's 3 tech companies that personally I'm interested in that you should pay attention to in 2020. So it will be Tesla, AMD, and Intel. So now talking about the bull run, the US stock market. So let's go to search for S&P 500. The S&P index. S&P 500 would be the market index that measures the performance stock price of the top 500 Fortune 500 companies in the United States Stock Exchange. And you can see it's all-time high, 3316, and look at the 1-year chart. Yes, all-time high. And it's been uptrending since last year. And the trend has some dips, like in September last year, it's dipped a bit, in November dipped a bit. But it has gone through the roof since December and now early 2020. Part of the reason for the strong buying, the strong rise in the stock prices are the trade deals. Because if if you are paying attention to any financial news, trade deal, you can search for US-China trade deals. Cable podcast, and yes, there's also there are a lot of articles on it. You can read them up. You can read up on it for your own understanding at your own free time. But basically, recently in the last few days, China has agreed to a phase 1 trade deal with the United States, and the trade deals is giving a lot of investors in the United States a lot of positivity that trades will continue. And part of the bonuses of the trade deal was that China was promising a lot of to buy a lot of purchases from the United States, especially things like, I believe, would be oil. Looking at this chart, yeah. So this is substantial. To reach promised purchases, Chinese imports will need to jump. These are the promised buys for 2020 and 2021. So there are promises by China to buy more assets from the US. So everything, it's very positive, and the investors jumped onto it as a sign of relief, and they poured money into their stocks. So hence the big increase in S&P 500. So would the US stock market just keep going up and never burst? Or is this another bubble, like the property bubble, like 2008? I don't know. But so it's up to you to decide. You should do your own research and put money into it if you are very confident of the knowledge that the US stock market is going to go up. Alright, so that's the US stock market. Another stock market, or another market index that I'm going to show you now would be the Seng. And if you're not familiar, what's the Seng stock index? It is the stock index for Hong Kong. So if you're aware, Hong Kong is world famous. They've gone through a lot of protests against China, and they've suffered. So you can see this is the 1-year chart. As of last year, through the fiercest protests, the Seng index actually dropped to the lowest of 3,500 range in September and November. And sometime in December, there was another dip, but as you can see, since beginning this year, it just roared. It just went uptrend like no tomorrow. In the 5-year chart, looking at the 5-year chart, the peak for Hong Kong Stock Exchange was in 2018. Let's maximize it. It was in the 4,400 range. And right now it's close to hitting 4,000. So what I believe is that investors are pouring back into the Hong Kong stock exchanges as most of the protests, I mean, they're still there, but they're not as bad as what they used to be, because towards December and I believe early January this year, there were a lot of elections and a lot of political discussion between China and Hong Kong, and some agreements were made. So it seems to be that the protests are gradually dying down, and investors are pouring money back into the Hong Kong stocks as they believe that the worst is over. So whether the protests will spike up again, whether they will cause another dip, I do not know. But technically speaking, if you're looking at a 1-year chart, this is the level, 4,031.50, 4051. So because this is the peak of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange Index as of middle of this is April, right? Yeah, April 2019. So for me, if I were to invest in the Seng or Hong Kong stocks, I would probably want to see the index break through this significant resistance level, break through this 4,030 range, before I feel that the market momentum will take it further upward. And obviously, there's another huge resistance. Once it breaks through the 4,000 range, there will be a 4,500 range. So if it breaks through 4,000, will it break through the 4,500? That will be another question. But once it breaks through the 4,000, there is probably a lot of upside, because it can go up to peaks of 4,200 to 4,300. So you have a little bit of upside room here. I mean, in this range, this will be the upside move if it breaks through. But of course, I'll be doing the wait and see approach. I'll be waiting to see if the stock exchange over the next few weeks the Hang Seng Stock Exchange over the next few weeks will be able to break through this range, the 4,000 range. All right, so those are the few investments that I have piqued my interest. Like I mentioned, some of them I've already invested in. Like I've already invested into AMD, I've already invested into Palladium, and so do your own research. And if you are familiar with these few commodities and these few companies, and you would like to put money into it, okay, it's up to you. So I can't say for sure whether they'll go up or not. I'm not a predictor, but these are just the things that interest me. So if there's more instruments, more stocks, or more investments that you'd like me to review, please give me a comment, leave a comment in my videos, and when I read them, I can look through them and I can see that I can review them if it's within my expertise. But of course, my knowledge is limited to investments which I'm used to, that I'm familiar with. So if it's something that I'm not familiar with, I can't promise that I can provide any insight on it, but I can try. Okay, and as usual, this is Simple Invest, and thanks for watching. Have a great day.